everyone, this is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and I am here with Eldrazi Tron and Devoted Devastation Master Laplasjan. Today we're going to talk about everything modern. We're going to talk about the movement of modern, the companions that have shaken up modern, the recent announcement that basically states nothing's going to be banned in modern, at least in the coming future. And if you like these conversations that I have with masters of Magic, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. So I'd love to welcome you back, Laplasjan. Long time no see.
Thank you very much. Yeah, indeed, we have not seen each other for quite some time, and like a lot has happened.
Yes, a lot has happened.
We thought probably that after our last conversation, we are speaking about looting ban, the position after looting bans, something like that.
Well,
and
we were also talking about like Mox Opal that deserved to be banned.
Exactly.
This
and
combined with Astrolabe was a disaster.
And Astrolabe without this is a disaster itself, I think. But this is probably already going further into the future of our conversation, I guess.
Yeah, so, well, let's just dive right into companions. What is your take on companions? Of course, it's a really controversial topic. I mean, just recently, MTG Goldfish recently made a video about companions perhaps being the most busted mechanic ever. That's going above Phyrexian mana and dredging and the Storm mechanic. I mean, what's your take on companions?
I mean, I have read the article. I have seen the video. If they made any, there was a video, not an article, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I think on the raw numbers, I think I agree because, like, companions besides standard probably will get banned in every format. Like in Vintage, it's already obvious they have to do something, and this will be something like extraordinary. That nothing like we have we have seen in the past, because you cannot just restrict it, right? And Legacy is a problem as well. In Modern, we have huge problem, but I have seen a couple people saying that it's fine, and I disagree strongly with this. So like in Pioneer too, like there has to be some ban, probably Lurus as well. Mm-hmm. So it will be like Lurus across all the formats. So I think that we have not seen such a quick ban across all the formats, and I have seen statistics that companions dominated all the formats from 50% of metagame, the whole metagame share in Modern, to like 70-80 in. So this is probably like the biggest takeover we have ever seen, and I think that mechanic that gives such huge possibilities and breaks, as somebody mentioned, rules of Magic, that you don't start with 7 cards. You start with 8 cards in hand. So probably this is the most busted thing. I remember like Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise being banned in almost every format too. Yeah. So this is comparable, but we have like Yorion, we have maybe Geruda, we'll see, we have Lurus for sure, and we have some other companions that are like super powerful too. Even if not, then you just play it because you can. Right. This is like a huge problem also.
Well, I mean, okay, so I don't feel very as strongly about, how do I put it? Like, for example, I like the companions. I've been pretty vocal. I like the companion mechanic, and I more or less see the companions, especially Lurus, to be more like a smuggler's copter problem than a companion in general problem. They could have made these things a lot more watered down, but instead they made them like outrageously strong. So, for example, like if you really ban Lurus and let's just say, just for the sake of argument, you ban Lurus and Yorion, would companions really take over any of these formats? Like, is Gigantha really? Yeah, exactly. So maybe the concept, they needed to be much more safe with this mechanic in the Gigantha. Was that Remo?
Obosh, Zirda, and some other stuff.
There may be one more that's badly invented. There was the hybrid red-white one and a generic
Zirda.
Yeah, so like
activated abilities to rest. This is Zirda.
No, it's the well, I don't know if it's that one, but you had to, all your creatures need to be cats and beasts and all this other stuff.
But, yes,
but if you play with no creatures, you can just jam this into a control deck for no reason. So that like poorly designed. But for the most part, like you said, like, so if Yorion and Lurus don't exist, this isn't really a problem. It will look much more like the original Planeswalkers that were released. And we look at those Planeswalkers like they're garbage today.
Sure. The same story we might say was partially with Delve, because you have like obviously busted cards like Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, Hoga.
Yeah.
Those are cards that are obviously busted, and these mechanics look like just stupid there. But you have cards like, for example, Tassigur's Cruelty or something like that. These card to cards with like Delve 7 and Murderous Cut.
Yeah, Murderous
So this
Cut.
is not this is, and those cards barely see play. So this is not the case of not cards are busted, so the mechanic is fine, because of course you have companions that put such high requirements that nobody will play them. That's fine, but this is so easy to violate those rules and give just a tiny bit more to the companion for it to be completely broken. And the same story, Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise, fine. We will keep eye on the Delve mechanic and so on. 2 cards are bad, but the rest is okay. And then you pin Hogak and everything falls apart. And the same story is here, at least for me. This is such a huge advantage to start with 8 cards in hand that, of course, we ban Lures. Let's say we ban Yorion. Don't want to discuss it now. But let's say we ban it.
Yeah.
We have Obor, Zirda, and some, this crazy little thing that makes you play... crazy little animal that makes you play commander, that you have like 1 copy of every card in your deck. Lutri. So restrictions put on the deck are so difficult to accomplish, to fulfill, that you either don't want to play this, or this is just, the deck is just bad. But with this mechanic, it is so simple to make a broken card that mechanic is, and in my opinion, will be very problematic in the future. Because this is like extra card. This is not a problem, okay, the game is fine until you draw Oko. No, you have this card every time, every game, even not in your hand. So this mechanic is very troublesome and might be potentially very dangerous.
Well, I have a question. Let's take Lurrus, for example. Let's assume Lurrus wasn't a companion and it was just a normal card. Do you think Lurrus would see modern play if it wasn't a companion? Like, the ability's powerful. It's Snapcaster Mage every single turn for permanence.
Yes, similar, because it like 3 mana, does not have flash, not casting like cryptic commands, so but similar one. I think it might, hard to say, because let's say if Oko was +1, -1, -5, would this be dominant? No. Would this play? Probably.
Oh, absolutely. I would play it.
Like,
everyone, I would have played Oko in exactly those stats. I would take less stats.
+0, -5, -5. Would this play? So, like, for example, I mean, I have given this example somewhere else. Speaking about Teferi, that his abilities are too powerful because you turn off opponent's instant actions, get rid of the most important permanent, like from almost all kinds, like artifact, enchantment, creature, this is everything. You draw a card and it stays on the battlefield. Like, this is far too much. Right? And this card is also broken in different way, and it does not warp the format that much. But in my opinion, this card is pushed like too far. And if you ask me whether Teferi would be dominant or good if you make his abilities like +1, -3, or how much loyalty does it have? Like 3. If you make him, sacrifice him for bounce and draw, would this see that much play? For sure not. Would this play? Probably too, but you have to make some more effort for it to be like a red draw and stay on the battlefield and so on. You have to navigate it through lightning bolts and so on. Right now, the problem of Lurrus is that you have it every game, just 1 copy is enough, know, to go crazy. If you ask me whether I will play Lurrus if it's not a companion, I will definitely try. If Mishra's Bubble is legal, I think this is still a very good addition. Maybe not that broken, but still very good.
I think that's the problem, though, is that it's a very good card already as a companion. And, for example, you see, here was what I like about the companion mechanic. It does give you an extra card in addition to your starting 7, so that you can keep playing the game, even if you start running low on resources.
Of course.
What if they were just like, what if Lurrus was just 3 mana for a 3/2 lifelink creature?
This would be like perfectly enough. And one more thing. Why make this hybrid mana? You know, you make this hybrid mana because right now every deck can play it and everybody will buy this card in paper. And this is, for example, if you make Yorion like double white, double blue, not blue-white, I think that blue is already broken because with Astrolabe you play anything. And this is another stupid thing that you play 5-color, 80-card deck, you have fluent mana every time, you are Blood Moon proof, you are like Land Destruction proof, you are everything proof, and 80-card deck is running fluently. Like, this is, something is not right. So like a lot of things, bad things happen at once. Like you make this hybrid mana, so you
Yes.
give a lot of decks access to it. You give this card two powerful abilities. Like I understand that you combine black and white. You combine recursive creatures from graveyard or stuff from graveyard. This is common for black. You make a guy like basing on their converted mana costs, like Ranger of Eos, like some other stuff that you search for creatures for stuff that costs 1 or 0. This is like quite common white stuff. But why the hell you make this 3/2 lifelink with all the powerful things? You could even make this 2/1. You can cut the lifelink, cut the ability, and still probably this would be like quite interesting card to play. I guess that the idea was to, first of all, not to let the game evolve in the way that you have empty hand, your opponent have empty hand, and whoever top decks better than wins. Of course, we don't like this type of game,
Right.
but you give such a huge advantage from outside the game, undiscardable, that is just waiting there.
So I
it's
think
too much. They put there too much.
Yeah, I totally agree. They did put too much, and I would love to see. I still like the companion mechanic. I like the idea of, morphing your deck to get access to that 8th card that can't be thought seized away. It has protection, but I would like it to just be a random extra card just available. Random 3/2 lifelink creature. Random 5/5 creature that doesn't really do anything.
The card that is entering, blinking everything. And
Yeah,
giving you 10 extra cards.
exactly. It does way too much for this protected zone, for this extra card that you start the game off. And they should have started it really as quietly as possible. And I probably would have seen a lot of play, too.
Yeah, I mean, if you start some new things, I understand they said that they don't test for eternal formats. I understand there's like 25,000 cards, something like that.
Yeah.
They cannot test. If you start putting resources, then there it might just be never-ending story. You just put all the resources or the money for the development and design for Vintage, Legacy, or whatsoever, and you just fall because this cannot be done. But one thing is that Lurus is, first of all, very powerful on the very first look, and they had like people like Tom Ross. They have, of course, he was there for 1 year. They came back to Magic, so he's not there anymore. But you're not gonna tell me that Tom Ross does not see things like that, or at least be hesitating for a minute that maybe this card is to push too far.
Right.
Second thing is that you make cards that are very impactful for older formats, very dangerous, and actually they don't do anything good for standard. Like Lurus is not playable in standard, so you make a card not for standard. For other formats, you don't test it for the formats. This is obviously broken, and you just release it, and then you delay ban announcement for modern, like for another, I don't know, month or so. I don't know.
Yeah, we're 3 weeks in right now, I think.
Yeah. So the problem is that, okay, you put new mechanics. Somebody said they have to put something new because people have to be interested all the time in the game. If you make nothing new, then people get bored. I understand, that's fine. So you make a new mechanic. First of all, you make it, so this was like a first argument. I agree with this. So you should start this slowly. You should start with things that are not obviously broken. Giganta, for example, see plays at least from the companion zone, because I did not see it being cast or doing anything because this is like just a trash. But okay, you have cards like that.
Yes.
Very, very low cost of putting into the deck, but very low upside. Like almost no upside. So for Tron, humans, I'm sure you can try it. This will not work, but you can try it. I have not seen Nif Mizzet for a long time because of, burn being everywhere, some other stuff. So I understand you do this, and you have done like very powerful companions. I understand it. Okay, maybe this was a mistake. Maybe you wanted to try it out. Okay, but those cards are like dominating all the formats, lures all the older formats for like first week, second week, third week, and you make announcement for everything, but not Pioneer and not Modern, right? Or
right,
Pioneer 2?
No, yeah, it's okay. Announcement for, well, not everything. They didn't touch Legacy, historic or anything like that. Basically, Vintage, Legacy, and Brawl.
Brawl, whatever.
Yeah, so, I know. Exactly. Yeah. We don't talk about Brawl on this channel. That's
nobody
for sure.
talks about Brawl. So you make you make a ban announcement for Legacy and Vintage. I understand it. Those are formats that I like watching. I'm not playing, but I like watching interesting format, like important from the historical point of view. You don't have GP, but this is still like very important part of Magic, as anything else, I guess. So, but why you keep waiting with Modern? If you at least they should at least make some announcement that they are waiting for the data, that they keep their eye on something. Like when they said that we are banning Bridge from Below, but we are keeping eye on Opal, we are keeping eye on Steerings, on looting and something else. This was very fair, and I was like, I like that very much. And right now they are saying nothing, although in my opinion and in opinion of the, I guess, vast majority of community, this is going very bad. Yes. I know that this is very polarizing situation, that some people love companions, somebody hate it. I would love to have an option to make a new opinion on them, because right now I just cannot step over Lurus and say, okay, maybe Lurus is bad, maybe Orion is too pushed, but everything else is fine. Even if everything else is fine, I'm just looking from the point of view of somebody that wants to play competitive Magic, win tournaments.
Right.
And this is like a huge problem. I cannot overcome this.
No, a lot of people can't overcome it, and even casual players can't even overcome it, because these companions, they've undermined their decks in two ways. Like, they are forced to buy into this thing and completely morph their deck. I hear, like, Jund players hate the idea of, like, setting aside their Liliana the Veils and their Bloodbraid Elves because they have to play this thing. Not to mention the cost of playing any of this stuff online is really expensive, because the Opals cost...
Bubble?
Yeah, but not Opal. Yeah, Bauble. Mishra's Bauble is over $200 for a playset. And then there are just a bunch of decks that just got crushed by these companion decks, and they've been rendered unplayable, and so they don't even see any presence in the metagame anymore. So my polling says between 70 and 80% of Modern players do not like this, do not like the state of Modern right now because of the companions.
I don't have any data, so I'm not. I just can nod my head.
Yes,
if you say
basically,
so,
just
probably true.
Read a little bit on Twitter, read a little bit on Reddit, and your own personal opinion. Things are not looking well from the community standpoint. Most people want to see something done. And you said, we're waiting for the data, and they have the data. I think they have the data clear cut in tournament results. They have the data from community feedback, and they're doing nothing. So the only reason left is they legitimately want to sell the boosters, because this is probably like the worst thing for them to do nothing, because right now everybody is saying, why you do nothing? Why you don't even make any announcement of the announcement? Yeah. Because they know this is a problem, because they know that they have to do something, but they don't want to announce this yet because they will sell more boosters right now. I think that the situation right now is, I know that they as a company might have some troubles because of coronavirus and so on, but looking at how many tournaments are they running online, and honestly, I love the idea. I mean, I love the way they have approached this, because I have to sit at home, so I have more Magic to play. Fantastic. And even Arena, I'm not playing Standard, but they are making this GP, some streams, all day, 24/7, like GP coverage or something like that. I completely love it. I think that their approach to this was very good. But on the same axis, you have on the other hand, you have the situation where they, like, I don't know how this is called in English, that you take water into your mouth. I don't say it. This is like in Polish. I don't know if we have
nabrać wody w usta. Yeah. So and you do nothing because you know that you have made a mistake, but you sit silently. Maybe nobody will notice. Maybe they will just buy it. And the problem is like much broader, because much wider, because Modern has become, I think I have seen opinions like that, and honestly, sadly, I agree with this. Modern has become a rotating format, because after War of the Spark, a lot of decks have just rotated out because of how powerful, I don't know, Karn, Small Teferi, Narset were. And then we have like Oko and Once Upon a Time and Veil of Summer, and again, a lot of decks just fold out completely of the Modern metagame. And then we had Uro, and then, of course, Urza, Astrolabe, and some other stuff, and right now we have Lurus, and a lot of decks has just completely disappeared. And first of all, you just have to find a new deck, because in my opinion, we can come back to this later, Eldrazi Tron is just very bad right now. It was getting worse and worse from the point where looting got banned, because this is like was probably the most one of the most devastating decks Chalice was one of the most devastating cards for
Yeah.
the main deck, and Karn and main deck sort of answers for graveyard and so on.
So Eldrazi Tron
Eldrazi
was in a good spot against the Faithless
was
looting
in a good
metagame.
spot. I thought that after looting ban, Eldrazi Tron will get worse and worse, but it just could compete. It was fine in mid range, okay, good in late game, but with the printings of Oko, Uro, Urza, and right now Yorion Lurus, you just don't have a power to compete in late game, and you will not aggro people out. So, in my opinion, just Eldrazi Tron is in a very bad spot right now. We can come back to this, but so I don't have a deck right now. Before I jumped into Lurus Druid, I don't have a deck, so I'm testing online. I'm in a okay shape because I have Mana Traders account, so I'm just renting cards.
Yay, Mana Traders.
Yeah, like for them. So I'm not playing paper. This is another like very good situation for Wizards. Very good from the point of view people are not angry because they are not buying cards, but bad for them they are not selling cards for paper tournaments. So, but imagine if the paper tournament happens. My Eldrazi Tron with 1 or 2 printings just fall out completely of the metagame, which should not be the case for Modern or Vintage or whatever. And right now I don't have a deck, so I need to buy like playset of bubbles for, I don't know, 400 or 200 euro, buy Lurus, and just probably sell them after the first GP or stay with nothing in hand because of the banning. So I don't want to buy, but I have to because I want to play. And Modern never was probably in that spot that after printing of a new set, you don't have a deck. And I feel that, okay, if people don't want to play Standard, we will force them. We will make every format a Standard. When with new printings, all the metagame is changing. And everybody has to play with new cards.
Were you ever there during the Treasure Cruise era?
I was not there. I was when Eldrazi, during the Eldrazi winter.
Eldrazi winter.
I kind of know.
So, I would say Modern sees this, where every so often some big busted cards come out and just wash away everything. Because especially during the Treasure Cruise era, there was basically 3 decks. There was Pod, Delver, Burn, maybe some Twin, and then
just get Ascendancy.
That saw some fringe play. People were trying to break it. So there basically a lot of other stuff got rendered useless until they banned the broken cards and everything came back to life. And you could say the same thing about Eldrazi Winter. They ban Eye of Ugin basically, and Modern comes back to life. Same thing with Hogak. Ban Hogak, everything comes to life. They've screwed up in the past.
The question is right now, if they ban Bobble, for example, because I would love to see Lurus and some other cards being banned because this is obviously the problem. Bubble is a problem too. I would love to see Lurus, Yorion, Astrolabe, Bubble. Those are my.
We're gonna clean up Modern. Laplasjan says.
I think I have. Yeah, don't understand me wrong. This is not like I'm calling for bans because I cannot win. I've been very successful recently with Lurus Druid, with Lurus and Bubbles, and yet I know that those cards just have to be banned. Bubble because it is a problem again, and Lurus just because it warps the format so much. So Astrolabe and Yorion is another story, but the question is whether if you ban those cards, maybe everything will just go back to the fight between banned Snow Control and Titan decks. Might be. And if the situation is true, then if one ban is not enough to bring the peace again, this is not the situation of Eldrazi Winter anymore. We will see about this. Maybe I'm wrong, but then you banned Eye of Ugin because there was only Eldrazi flying around, I guess, and Modern just came back to the situation where it was before. But right now, if you ban Bubble, a lot will change because every deck almost is playing Lurus. But if you just ban Bubble, then probably metagame will be dominated by Yorion decks, maybe 1 or 2 Lurus decks that can do without Bubble. I hope we not see this, but.
Well, probably Lurus would still see a lot of play because it's still the deck restriction still isn't strong enough for a lot of archetypes, and still again using the random 8th card in your deck is still going to be useful. Not to mention you can use it as a clunky Snapcaster Mage very late in the game.
I wanted to mention one more thing. We were talking about companions being cards that put some restrictions for the 8th card, so you make your deck weaker to make it better in some way.
Yeah.
And the idea probably was to make a Modern and other formats more diverse, and it turned out to be exactly the opposite. I think of Collected Company as a card that makes some deck restrictions make you not play Restoration on Jiki, but
Right.
make some instant speed interaction where you for 4 mana you can put like 6 mana permanents into play, and so on and so forth. You put some randomness, you put some instant speed action, you get something, you lose something. And this is like somebody asked me why I'm not playing company in this deck. Like not enough creatures, too low mana curve, and so on and so forth.
A real
and
deck
too much
restriction.
random.
Real deck restriction.
Company is still a very interesting, very powerful card, but this is like not broken. Maybe under some circumstances it might be, but there was like I think that the idea behind Collected Company was like very, very thought before they printed this card, because like why 6 cards, not 8, not 4, why 3 mana, not CMC 4, not CMC 5, and so on. Just probably they tested it and it turned out that in this situation this is interesting and not pushed. So this is interesting deck building. You cannot play creatures higher than this CMC, but you get something in exchange. About companions like Lurus in older formats, you lose nothing for this. This is like another problem, right?
You're losing way too little.
Exactly.
I still look at companions in the spot that I really don't have a problem with the concept of companions, but I understand the problem of Lurus very specifically, and maybe to some extent Yorion, because it can so easily and comfortably be jammed in a lot of control decks.
Oh yeah, the hybrid mana again. Right?
Yeah, hybrid mana again. I could play it in Merfolk.
Yeah, exactly.
Blink my Silvergill Adept.
You cannot, because you have Lords, so you cannot play Yorion in Merfolk, right?
Well, like who doesn't want a free 4/5 flyer?
Yeah, but you cannot play double blue in permanence cost in the deck, right? If you want a Yorion as your companion.
No, Yorion. That's not. So. You're thinking of Gigantha, not Yorion. Yorion makes my deck go up to 80 cards.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just got 80.
Fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, my mistake.
So I use their control weapon against them.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I think that like we had some troubles with those two companions. I think like not enough restrictions, too high power level, and so on and so forth. I said that I want a lot of bans in Modern because I think that the situation is. I don't like the situation of Modern for quite some time. With too powerful printings and metagame changing too fast. Maybe this is like only my opinion, but I think that cards like Bubble, Lurus, Astrolabe, and Yorion, I think those cards are somehow problematic. Yorion and Lurus for like 3 weeks, and Bubble and Astrolabe for much more.
Well, here's a good. I mean, I can understand like Bobble really become a problem somewhere deep into the future, but like even as of today, like if let's look at Modern before Lurus got printed. How bad was Bobble? I mean, it saw good, fair play in a lot of archetypes, particularly like the Death Shadow variants. I don't think it was particularly busted in the Wurza deck. I was much more concerned about other cards in the Wurza deck. Like, how bad really was Mishra's Bobble prior to...
There was the first time we have
Lurus.
talked about Mishra's Bubble ban. It was Grixis Shadow, probably your Giant Shadow. People were saying, "Wow, you are playing 52 cards deck that is that fast and that disruptive. This is broken." And Street Rate Mishra's Bubble gave them option to scry early, to make a lot of actions early, and so on.
Yeah.
And because of many reasons, Grixis Shadow dropped in popularity. But speaking of the decks that disappeared, like, have you seen Storm, Shadow, Infect, or Eldrazi recently in Modern Leagues? I did not. Those decks like were completely pushed by the recent printings, and this is like there are more of them, in my opinion. But as you mentioned, there are printings and there are bans and times where decks from Modern just disappear are pushed to tier 3 or so. But I think that a lot of decks has happened. This has happened to a lot of decks recently.
Also, I want to chime in on about the decks that get pushed out. I don't think it's ever the fair decks that get pushed out. It's a lot of unfair decks that get pushed out when new cards come in. Like,
not really.
Like see, like Burn is a fair deck. It's succeeding. We see a lot of Jund right now. It's succeeding. I see a little bit of Shadow.
But you know
the
what?
Control decks are also still succeeding, maybe because of Yorion.
Yeah, but the question is, what do you find a fair deck? Let's cut Lurus from this discussion, because if you speak about Lurus, then you have like all the decks with Lurus. So this is another story. But before that, did you see a lot of Jund? I saw some, but not that much.
Yeah, Jund was on the rise. Like, I think in February, it was like filling up a lot of 5-0s. because of the
Okay.
use of Croxa. They were adding Croxa, and then all of a sudden
Oh
the
yeah,
Jund community was like,
they
"Oh my
were,
god, we got a new card! We got to start playing.
oh yeah.
Put 4 Croxa in the deck. Let's
We
go."
have
So
we
there
have
was,
some new card. We can throw our money out there.
yeah,
Yeah, but
exactly.
you are saying that third decks are not being pushed out. I kind of disagree because, for example, you don't see Jeskai control, you don't see blue white control, you don't see Abzan, you
But
don't see
but
like
we see
triple
control. We still see blue white and
Yeah, but
and Simic at the same time. Sorry, Bant at the same time.
I think that right now we only see blue white miracles, and we have seen it just played by a couple of people. We will see whether this deck will survive, but I think that right now the problem is that all the mid-range or late-game decks collapse after some time to one archetype that is the strongest. When Bant Snow was a thing, you did not see any other control, any other.
Mm-hmm.
I remember times when Jeskai control was fighting with blue-white control and Abzan was fighting with Jund. Maybe this is like some crazy stories I'm telling, but there was a time like that, a couple, maybe 2-3 years ago. But right now you don't see Abzan because of many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You see some Jund, sure, but you don't see Abzan. You don't see Mardu from banning of looting, of course, but you don't see any other control-ish decks besides Yorion control and Yorion Urza.
Yeah, but like I think the
Okay.
Jeskai control decks, they needed to evolve and they didn't. Like their whole deck was based around removal spells that killed things at 3 toughness, and if that's
True.
not positioned, like if those decks don't exist in modern, then your deck just sucks. It's not going to control anything.
Of course.
So it needed
course,
to take
but-
another angle, and they refused to do so.
Yeah. I mean, refuse to do so. It's not like I'm not gonna change, but this is like you just don't have tools in Jeskai colors to fight it, and it turns out with like printings of Oko, Icefang Coatl,
Uro.
and some others, Uro and so on, that those cards are just more powerful. And
Yeah.
this deck, which was kind of fair, was just pushed away. And in the mirror, if your opponent is siding in Veil of Summer, you're just done, right? You're just
But-
not gonna win this.
But again, with the Jeskai control, Jeskai was pushed away, I think, the moment like Teferi
Of course.
Hero of Dominaria was printed, because once that card was printed, it was just clear the blue-white deck was just a lot better positioned in the metagame
Might-
than Jeskai. Like
Might be, but
SCG
I'm
people
not
were
gonna-
like making fun of Jeskai players showing up to their events with Jeskai.
I'm not gonna say I'm like defending Jeskai. I wanted Jeskai in the meta. I'm just saying that mid-range or third decks are also pushed away, but this is like I think a bit different story. Yeah, that's it. I think we are moving into other topic, but I just have,
Well, my idea
I-
is like those fair decks always exist in some way. Like, sure, a variation might not be positioned anymore, but we always got a control deck. We always have like a Jund or a Shadow deck
Oh
around.
yeah, you're not gonna cut out the whole archetype. This is not possible to cut out control. It was pushed out from the metagame when I guess either Hogak was around or something else. But I think their control was just super difficult for control decks to prepare for such a fast metagame and so on. But I remember Blue White winning GPU and Hogak was like mulliganing to 3. So it's probably not possible to push out from the format the whole archetype. This happens only in standard when like a huge portion of cards rotates out. Yeah, so this is not a case. But I have seen a lot of articles I have read recently, and I was thinking about Modern. I mean, I don't like the fact that Wizards are printing such powerful cards that are warping the format so strongly, all the formats, and they just require bans. Like 2019 was just a disaster year for Magic, I think.
I remember Mark Rosewater said at the beginning of 2019 he was really excited for all the new stuff and exciting sets and cards that were going to show up in that year, and was not quite the outcome I think he was expecting.
Yeah, it was a disaster, one after another. Like how many bans we already had, and how many bans incoming we will have. And sadly, 2020 started just as 2019 finished. Like, I know there is no barrier between years, like this is like day after day and nothing changes, so there was not a real reason, but maybe the company is making some report from the previous year, and okay guys, we have to think about those cards once again. But probably they were already in the printing procedures, so maybe this was like too late to fix it. But we had like a lot of troubles.
I think over the next few sets we might see some changes that they could make last second based on like feedback from September, because I'm sure there's a lot of things that they've done in advance that they don't really want to go back on.
From September, but they had no feedback in August or May or something like that.
No, it's
To make
it's
changes
probably
for
still
2020.
too late to know. Like
Oh
the
yeah,
stuff back in like September and August, thanks to Modern Horizons, that wasn't a standard set. That was something
yeah.
that they actually tried to play test for Modern and they screwed up. Like something like
Oh yeah,
Hogak,
screwed up.
I guarantee. I know some people say like Wizards should create a team to playtest the Eternal formats. It just like that's ridiculous. I am certain.
You just look at the card. You just look at it. You
Well,
just look at the Hogak, and that's it. You don't need playtest. Like playtesting 1 second. Hey guy, hey dude, take a look at this card, Hogak. Oh okay, no, that's not. Okay, that's it. How much money you can pay for that? Because like okay, and there are cards obviously broken. There are cards not so obviously broken, right? I'm thinking about, let's say,
Oko.
Oko was not obvious. I mean, maybe I'm not an
The
experienced
pros
player,
like thought this was garbage. Like only Sam Black and
Yeah.
myself at spoiler season said like this thing's actually
Super
really
good.
really good. And I was only like judging it based on Modern. I wasn't judging it for standard at all. Like no.
I remember Sam Black said probably as the first person that this is the best Planeswalker ever painted.
Yes, and he
of
was the
course,
only person. He stuck to his guns.
Yeah, and if you speak about Modern, this is probably true because, for example, Ren and 6 got banned in Legacy very early because this card was like broken for Legacy.
Yes.
So we might argue what best Planeswalkers ever means, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, there are cards that are not obviously broken. Somebody said, you're gonna tap out for your Urza on turn 4, huh? One 4 mana. I mean 1/4 guy that makes a construct, and it turned out that in a correct shell it required ban of Mox Opal.
Yes.
Mox Opal was on the radar already,
Mhm.
so that's fine. Urza had some interesting statistics, but right now I think that Urza's power level is also very high.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Urza is very good.
Very.
The-
And sadly, it fit nice into all the very good or nearly broken cards that they printed. Astrolabe, Urza, Uro, Rebuke, Mystic Sanctuary, and now Yorion. So everything combines together, and we look right now and say, wow, you printed too much. But it was not broken from the first point, I guess.
And
there
also
are
people
cards-
people were criticizing it for being like a commander card. Like they were calling Modern Horizons like Commander Horizons basically.
Yeah, and
You know?
it turns out that, I mean, probably, but from the moment they printed like Canopy set lands, it stopped being a joke anymore because everybody knew those cards are super good.
Yes.
Of course, lands are never broken, almost never, like Ayavugin. So I think that this was like a very interesting printing. I don't like it a bit because like probably the only reason to play at that moment to play green and white in Eternal formats like disappeared because you just don't need your lands to draw cards from green white. You can do this in any colors, but never mind. Like those lands are interesting set. It auto inclusion in many decks and so on. So it stopped being a joke. But with Hogak, together with Carrion Feeder and Art of Glory, and
Yeah, but this
else,
is the
it's
thing. Like, I think they play tested Hogak in Dredge. Like, they were slotting these cards into modern decks that already existed, completely dismissing the possibility that it could build on there could be a whole new archetype built around it, and they just
built
completely
around
missed
3
it.
new cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and another story, Hogak was already broken in Dredge. Dredge was already broken before Hogak.
Yeah, I
mean,
know.
When you printed Creeping Chill, another very bad print.
Why are you printing more good stuff for the busted decks that we don't want to see any more help for?
Yeah, so like we had a lot of troubles in this past year, and I hope they will. First of all, like maybe summing up at least discussion on this part, because I see that we are like moving from the river into the sea, like
It's all
everybody is catching a different topic and different opinion on something. So I hope they will do something fast about this, just for me to feel safe. I would love, for example, to ban some new cards. Okay, I understand. My deck just got too old. Like Eldrazi is not good right now. Okay, this is not a metaphor for Chalice of the Void. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have played and it like felt bad, and I don't
like
see
Chalice
results.
of the Void.
Chalice of the Void is good. Maybe if you see Burn and Prowess such in such huge portions, you say Eldrazi is good. But I played it. It felt bad. I did not see too many, if any, results, any high and like top 8 finishes by Eldrazi, and all of this confirms, in my opinion, that Eldrazi is just not a good deck right now. So I just had to push it back, put this deck away. So I have to find a new one. And honestly, I'm coming back to Devoted Druid. I love this deck. I have like a lot of foil cards, almost the whole deck from the previous version. And I understand, like Modern is evolving. I need some new cards, and I would love to buy new cards for the Devoted Druid. Maybe even foils, maybe Aladamical foil, maybe from the new set. Like you will say, Modern Horizons, maybe from the vendors, like the old one, $50 more, but okay, I like this deck, I want some foils, that's fine. This is my hobby, I'm spending money there, but I'm not gonna, because I know that either Lures or Bubble or both will get banned, so I'm waiting for the banning, I'm waiting for the format to evolve, then another 2 broken decks will emerge, and I will choose one of them to play, but I will not buy cards, because I'm waiting for them to get banned. And this is a situation for like quite some time already, and this is what I don't like a lot.
Well, I feel sorry for any of like the more casual players who
if
feel like
casual,
their deck is getting pushed out. But like for someone like you who's like razor cutthroat competitive, and like if your deck goes from tier 1 to tier 2, that you skip it to the next tier 1 deck. Like I don't know how much sympathy I have for the cutthroat players like yourself that, you know, don't mind buying into the latest and greatest mana traders archetype that you can borrow.
I mean, the situation. I understand that this happens to everybody, and when a card gets banned, people say, "Oh, you are so poor because your deck is pushed out to the meta. My deck got banned." Okay, but when I was playing like Eldrazi with Lattice, I did not think it was broken, but I knew that there was some probability something will get banned because the deck was obviously very good, and with Lattice Lock was a problem because of other reasons. It was not like Eldrazi dominated metagame tournaments and so on, and yet it got banned because of bad play patterns. If you care about play patterns, then Lurus and Yorion are on the radar too. But I understood this. If you play the best deck, absolutely best, you just agree buying cards or renting them, you agree that this deck might get banned. And right now I borrowed Devoted Devastation with Lurus, and I understand this might get banned, so I'm not gonna cry when this happens. The thing I don't want is just why I had to borrow Eldrazi or buy it. Because my old Devoted Druid got put out of the meta because of Creeping Chill and Arclight Phoenix. And metagame, in my opinion, was very bad for months and months then. And then it was the banning of KCI, then was the banning of Hogak, Faithless Looting, and so on and so far. And for a long time I was playing Eldrazi. And right now it got probably pushed out of the meta, too hard for me to compete with this anymore right now. And it's not like I'm buying a deck per week or two, but I think I was playing Eldrazi for some time. I understand. It's just not a deck right now, not good anymore. Maybe I will come back to it when the metagame is right. Okay, but right now I'm afraid just to buy anything, to borrow anything.
I understand. Like the changes are too drastic too often, and at the very least, if you invest in a deck, you would like it to be like somewhere in the tier 1.5 category for like a year before you would have to make any changes. And right now we're in a world where maybe every 1.5 months there might be a change, because first they come out with a new set which shakes things up, then we got to experience bannings which shakes things up again, and then there's another set after that, and then we've been experiencing this more or less since War of the Spark. And I mean, that I understand. I hear and feel for you, so nobody can really feel very comfortable, and it's not good for Wizards either, because they want the price of the cards to be high enough so that they can keep making these sort of like Modern Horizons and Eternal Masters like sets. Yeah,
the problem is probably more complex, because if they look from the point of view that if we make a card good enough for retailer formats, more people will buy it in play sets and so on, and collect foils and so on and so forth. But the problem is that if they keep making changes like that, and if they change every format into standard, when deck really rotates out, because Eldrazi 2 or 3 months ago was a tier 1 deck by some margin, as from 5-0 results of the tournaments and so on. And right now this deck is I can check Goldfish, but it's nowhere near the top. So if you make every format standard, I think that a lot of people will not quit from day to day, from set to set, but after some time you just get people bored and tired of buying new decks, rotating formats, shaking them up so hard. If I want to shake up every single set, I would play standard. and I'm not because of some reasons. Because I would love to give some some win percentage points for option to play the deck I like and I know. And right now I did not have that option with the Drazitron after this point because it was just got too bad. Okay, so I took Devoted Druid because this is the deck I like the most. I know it the best, and I'm not gonna jump into Jund or Burn. But I'm afraid that after the banning, the situation will be like, okay, we're gonna ban Bubble, so the decks, all the metagame will collapse. Let's assume to Prowess and Urza Yorion control. So after some time, they will, for example, ban Astrolabe, and then metagame will took some form. But still, I have like 3 to 6 months of doing nothing but buying new cards, learning new deck, and this is not what Eternal format should look like, I think.
Well, I think I don't remember when was the last time or I publicly spoke about this, but one factor that's shaking up Modern really fast that we didn't have this dynamic for the last 6 years, maybe it's only happened in the last 1 year, is the ability to borrow decks. Like we are really solving these formats super quickly. Like take Lantern Control or Kark Clan Ironworks. Like Kark Clan Ironworks was around for like, I don't know, maybe a year of Matt Nass just destroying people with it, but people are like really scared of buying into this archetype because they didn't know when the hell it would get banned, if it got banned, and it's a very weird deck to buy into. Same thing with Lantern Control. When it was around, there was like 3 people per GP playing it, but then 2 make the top 8,
for
top
example.
32. So it had like a really good win rate.
Win percentage, yeah.
So now, any deck that could potentially get banned, you can just borrow it freely, and the whole metagame gets solved really quickly, and then just dissolves quickly. I think even faster than it was before. People thought like online Magic got solved fast just because of online Magic. Now people are willing to just buy into anything online because you're not really buying into it, you're just borrowing it.
Yeah, this might be not the problem, just,
this is just how it is.
This is how it is because we play a lot of Magic Online, and I was very happy to see that. But after a couple of top 8s, I have seen Ross Miriam and Cory Baumeister at SCG Live. They were testing decks, and Ross said that, I'm playing the deck is by Laplasjan and so on. I was so happy to see that. But the case is that I took a deck that I felt that this is like more my playstyle, and I know it good. I know it well enough to have more chances of winning with this version of Lures than some other, and it turned out this is good. And everybody knows that after, let's say, a week or 2, that okay, this deck is a thing. I need to play this in the sideboard. I have to play that in the sideboard, and I have seen people coming prepared in the main deck and so on and so far. Like everybody knows that. That Prowess is a thing and Burn is very popular, so everybody is playing like 4 copies of Firewalker, and somebody jumped out with option of playing Pirate Spellbomb in the main, which is less powerful but very good against some sideboard options. Humans were playing like Core or Ariok Champion in the main. So honestly, we see the situation being much more dynamic, of course, and I understand that this requires faster actions, and we get format solved and decks that are obviously broken much faster. But Sodek mentioned in one of his articles that the question is that if you have Yorion mid-range, late game, Yorion control, and Lurus aggro, Lurus Jant and Burn, so, and let's say 2 or 3 combo decks, like for example Ad Nauseam and Neoform, because this is like the meta game we are looking at pretty much. Ad Nauseam, maybe Neoform and Amulet Titan. So the question is, if the decks decide, okay, right now Yorion has to be prepared for Burn and some combo deck, let's say Ad Nauseam, and Burn, okay, I have to be prepared for the Mirror, and let's say I have to be prepared with my Werthers against Ad Nauseam Sanctity leyline, then Ad Nauseam will win nothing, and maybe you will be lucky enough to pick a deck that in the current spot just has a tiny bit more chances because you're not gonna hit Neoform or Devoted Druid with the same hate you're gonna hit Ad Nauseam. So if you prepare for exact this deck, this is fine and you're gonna win. If you miss, then you're gonna lose, and this is how the metagame shapes up. And this was probably very good, and it was nice to play when you had Modern that consisted of like more decks. Right now, this is Lurus into shapes, Yorion into shapes, and 2 versions of combo, and this is like by far not enough. I mean, I was thinking maybe Modern has too much cards to take control over it, to make a metagame stable. But it was the case. We had a metagame stable and very interesting model for a long time. Like with humans, before printing of Arclight Phoenix, it was a perfect modern, the best I have ever experienced. Honestly, there was like Grixis Shadow fighting with humans, like Tron and Scapeship fighting with this, and
no,
some
I had
blue
like
controls
Krar
fighting
Clan
with Dredge.
Ironworks and Dredge and
But before
Is it
Creeping
Phoenix?
Chin, there was no Dredge. You mean that after this we had?
well,
like,
if you're talking about
KCI
the printing of Arclight Phoenix, that at that
I mean
moment.
before.
Before. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
before.
Before this was
Yeah.
good. This was fine.
It was Grixis Shadow, humans, some mid-range, maybe some giant, some blue-white control with Terminus, some band spirits, and so on.
Krar
and,
Clan Ironworks.
Later, because Clan Ironworks were
It was a good deck people didn't want to
Before-
buy into or play
probably
yet.
True. It was a deck that you could build, but it was not a deck that made some results. And what I wanted to mention is that wait for a second, give me a moment to catch a break. I was talking about. Jeez, you like
You're talking about
pushed me
the
Sure.
it was a good format before the printing of Creeping Chill and Arclight Phoenix.
Yeah, but before that, I was talking about that we are solving the metagame too fast. We are solving the decks too fast. So maybe you have just too much cards, and you have to agree that the metagame will be degenerated until the banning and until the next banning. So I was thinking that so if you make a format that has less smaller card pool, maybe this is fine. But I'm looking at Pioneer and I'm saying no, it's not that. It's not that. Because I was like very interested in Pioneer when it got released, but right now I'm just disgusted. Maybe right now after Lurus get printed, maybe it's better because Wizards just denied to ban either Inverter or Tassos Oracle, and I remember that this was just rock paper scissors, that you have this combo deck, you have some aggro deck, let's say like mono black, and you have 5 color Mizzet.
But that is very largely how Modern looked like from the start of Modern. There was like
Yes.
Birthing Pod, Twin, Affinity, Jund, and then there was like a bunch of satellite crappy decks, or there's like the tier 2 decks that satellited around them, but there was like these really 4 more dominant decks in that metagame, and as time went on, it really got diverse, honestly, once they banned both Pod and Twin. And maybe that's just things we're just now foreshadowing what needs to happen in Pioneer to get that diversity again.
Might be, because just a personal question: were you interested in Pioneer?
I was interested in Pioneer. I like the
Are
idea
you interested now?
I am still slightly interested. I just don't have the time because
Slightly.
I have like
Okay.
I want to play Spirits in Pioneer. I am interested. Right now I just can't play anything basically.
Yeah. You can't play because you don't have a computer.
Yeah, I
or
don't have a
because
computer.
you are not-
I don't have a
Okay.
computer. So when I
But
do play, I
I
play Modern Merfolk because I can get like 1 league a week.
Okay. So,
But I
like,
will say, I've played Pioneer. I've played a lot of Pioneer. I played a
I've
lot
played
of
it.
Modern. My heart really still is with Modern. It is the more
Of course.
intricate format. It's deeper. I like the richer card pool. I just like how the game patterns play out.
What I wanted to mention is that if we decrease the card pool, we see that this is not the case, because Pioneer is also very degenerate. Like
Yeah.
you have 3 or 4 combo
the
decks.
same thing can happen in Standard.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like not the case that we have just 2 big card pool and you just cannot take control over it and prepare a good Modern. One more thing, that if you are talking about Bearding Pod and Splinter Twin, I don't want to discuss Splinter Twin because I'm not that kind of player that would play Splinter Twin, so it's hard for me to evaluate it. But if you think about Bearding Pod, let's assume that you have your perfect draw, that you have Hierarch or Birds into Pay to Life, cast Bearding Pod turn 2.
Yep.
If you are on the play, you just get hit with Force of Negation, or even not on the play, just Force of Negation your Bearding Pod, then Teferi comes down, bounce your Hierarch, draw a card, good luck. Wow, this is like so busted. The best deck that Modern have probably ever seen, with the most successes. Right now, it would have like huge troubles beating anything. This is my opinion.
I disagree, because like maybe it would have some trouble against.
Like,
So, like every deck
there
is
are-
going to lose to something, you know.
Of course. But for example, against Tron and like decks like Storm and Geoform, Beating Pot had already probably big troubles beating decks like Tron and Storm. Like you needed to hit like Thoughtseizes and so on. This is possible, but difficult. But there are so many devastating answers for the best options that you have in the deck. You play your 1 mana Dork, and you got Lava Darted. This is a disaster, and you got Renan Sixth. This is disaster. So
Well, they
your
can side
best
those. They
option-
can side some of the dorks out for just a higher threat density deck.
Yeah, sure, but then you are not that fast, and then you're just gonna get hit by.
Well, the deck was
Value-
never fast though. That wasn't.
Yeah,
that
of course, but
that was
yeah,
the
but-
thing with Pod. It was like a really. It ground you out. It wasn't
Yeah,
even
of
trying to
course,
combo
but
off.
The question is right now: is Beating Pot really that powerful in the late game when you have options like Uro, Yorion, Urza, and some other stuff? I don't think so.
Yes, because it has an instant combo attached to it. If you don't interact
Not
with them,
instant.
they
Not
can beat
instant.
you.
Is not. What do you mean instant speed combo?
Okay,
Like,
no,
not
it's
with
it,
a
it will
special
if you cannot interact with them, they have a combo at hand
Yeah,
at
sure.
ready. So what they
might be.
they
so
have-
the combo probably will be the only answer out there.
yeah, so
So
like
man,
so if
I'm
you
just-
don't interact with them, they have like the moment you have Pod out, it would now be a Splinter Twin situation where you now have to hold up interaction for
Might
the
be.
rest of the game to interact with them. Otherwise, they will combo out. And then if you do have that if you are holding up mana for that interaction, then you just
Then
don't
you're
go
not
for the
gonna look.
combo. You just go for a value game.
Sure. So maybe I'm looking from a wrong perspective. I'm looking from the perspective how many answers and how many powerful options your opponents got to answer your threats. Things like Collector's Commander, Force of Negations,
Yeah.
and Dread and Seeds are just devastating. So the power level is definitely increasing like strongly. I'm not sure how about Splinter Twin. I think this would be like very dominant format if Splinter Twin gets unbanned, and I think this would like be very problematic. I would like to see Beating Pot in Modern, of course, mainly because like creature decks were absent until printing of Lures. Right now, there is an option to play it, but
I mean, like a toolbox deck.
yeah, a toolbox deck.
Because we have creature decks. I mean, humans is
Oh yeah,
around.
creature deck of course. Like Lura's prowess is a creature.
Yeah,
deck,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah. To maybe to sum up some of stuff I'm saying. I would like to see them Wizards acting quickly, because right now probably many players are in the situations like I am. You have to find a new deck, but you really can't buy into it. Even if you wanna buy some cards, buy some foils, pimp it out, and so on, you just can't do it because it will get banned or metagame will change strongly in a month or month and a half.
Yeah.
That you just cannot afford that.
I agree that Wizards should, especially since they're not playtesting Modern or like Pioneer, Legacy, Vintage, act swiftly when especially the community backlash is strong enough. Like, I polled people about Oko, and only 50% of people hated the Oko metagame. The other 50% liked it. We're way above
awful.
this.
It was awful.
We are way above this now.
Yeah, because this touches every format and every game, every match, every deck in every game.
Yes.
Right? Oko was awful, and then I just hated looking at Oko mirrors and Oko play patterns when everybody was playing almost the same deck, but they were saying, nah, he's playing Temur Oko, I'm playing Bant Oko, this is a completely different story. So it was like...
But Oko itself always plays the same. At the very least,
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
say Luris plays a bit differently from archetype to archetype.
Lurus is playing the same too, at least a bit. So I understand that Lurus problem comes in every game of every match because you have it in hand every time. So this problem is just much more, not complex, but just you see it more often. So I understand why the reaction is stronger, but I see it as well that the community is reacting like do something, and for Modern, for example, they do nothing. This is something that worries me and makes me sad.
All right, so if anyone wants to follow you or find you, I think you now have a lot of social media. They can contact you. So if you want,
I have a Twitter right now.
talk
account, so,
Eldrazi-tron or Devoted Devastation, they can hit you up. So where can they find you?
I'm a Laplasjan at Twitch and at Modern Creature Toolbox community on Facebook, and I have my Twitch and Twitter, Twitch Laplasjan MTGO. Yeah, I will send you links. Maybe you can link it to the...
Everything will be in the description below. The usual
Sure.
thing. How you find the guests. All right.
Nice.
This is
Perfect.
awesome. So thank you very much for coming onto the show,
Thank you a lot.
Laplasjan. Thank you. Give us a like if you thought this interview was valuable, this discussion was
will.
valuable. Give a like and share it with your communities. So anyway, this has been Nikachu, Merfolk Master with Laplasjan, talking about this, taking our discussion about the current metagame with companions in Modern.